Thank you for joining us today. My name is Guillaume. I work in the Open Innovation Strategy team. And basically today we'll have a short 50-minute session on one topic, AI robotics. And then tomorrow we'll have pretty much the same with a mobility session. The goal for today is to ask our friends from CRADLE what they think about a few topics. I'll let you guys introduce yourself very briefly.
Hi, my name is Suyuan. I'm an OI manager at CRADLE Silicon Valley. I've been with Hyundai since the beginning of 2020. Great to be here with all of you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nir Chen. I'm a senior Open Innovation Manager out from CRADLE Tel Aviv. And I've been with Hyundai, I think, 5 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hui Ying from CRADLE Singapore. I'm an investment manager with the team. I have been with Hyundai for 3 years now. Nice to meet you guys.
Hello, everyone. I'm Derek Lee from Hyundai CRADLE Beijing, and we covered startups and projects collaboration in China. And nice to meet you.
Okay, now you know who's everybody. We'll jump into the questions right away. I will ask the CRADLE colleagues to answer the question in each of your ecosystem, the 5 different regions you're covering. What are the general investment and industry trends you see in AI?
Generative AI is kind of the big rage nowadays, right? We see big investments in OpenAI, Anthropic, Inflection just being three of the bigger ones, right? Companies that are nowadays having multi-billion-dollar valuations and getting multi-billion-dollar investments from big companies like Google, Amazon, etc. And one of the biggest, I would say, industry trends that we've seen recently is more of a push towards these multimodal generative AI systems, where it's not just generating text, but it's generating text, video, music, etc., all these things together, so that in a way it becomes even more useful than just purely text generation.
ZER01NE was acquired by NVIDIA for $700 million, and Dachi, also by NVIDIA, was acquired for $300 million. And what is common to those two companies is that they are dealing with infrastructure, tools, in order to develop those AI models. You need to give them tools in order to make sure that those projects are succeeded. The challenge that we as corporate and enterprises has is how we making sure that those projects are perfect, are successful, higher percentage of successful project, and they're going to a perfect solution, not just good enough in order to move forward. And using those tools and capabilities in order to get and automate those processes, this is, I think, the main goal of we as a corporate needs to look into, invest both on technology-wise and also financially, find those solutions and invest on those in order to grow them up.
What we're seeing in terms of trends is startups trying to develop regional LLMs that can be used for local companies to localize solutions, application layers that can address very local use cases. We are also seeing companies raising money in the area related to fintech and also wealth management. So anything that could really leverage on the use of AGI in that space. We're seeing companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon in this year alone pledging $1 billion investment in Southeast Asia. The last thing related to AI that we're seeing is also large multinationals, especially in the semiconductor space, leveraging on the current geopolitical tension that you're seeing globally to look at new manufacturing sites. And actually, Singapore and Malaysia has been a very attractive sites for these companies, given that they have very strong supply chain and also experience in the area of semiconductor.
So in China, I think AI and robotics, the themes today we are discussing about are the two themes that China will not miss. In the recent 2 years, I guess, the most popular one would be the catch-up with the OpenAI in large language model. The first one is mainly led by the giant ICT companies, including Alibaba Cloud, and also Baidu has its large language model. Like 100 investment activities happened in China in robotics themes, and also among them, like 27 humanoid robots already showed up in this year's World Robotics Conference. So I would say this development is really fast and rapid in China, and Chinese companies, the founders and the engineers are kind of devoted to AI and robotics.
Thank you all. Next question, maybe a bit more specific for each region here. The future of humanoid robot with AGI. What's your take and what do you see in your region?
We see a lot of these AI tools being utilized to help the robot reason better as to how to help the human. on basic activities. We look at a lot of how can these robotics be deployed on the factory setting to help our workers to better improve their processes, right? A company that CRADLE Silicon Valley invested in a few years ago called Real-Time Robotics. The thing that everybody thinks about, sort of like the ethics behind humanoid robots, right? Are you, at the end of the day, going to be replacing humans, or are you enhancing human productivity? Especially in the US, right, where people are very conscious about, I don't want robots taking my job, for example. And these are the kinds of things that we all have to consider as these technologies progress further and further.
From Tel Aviv perspective, I'm proud to say that if you look on the landscape of humanoid robot, the Tesla, one of the top 5 companies is coming from Israel. It's called Robotics. But if you look on those humanoid robots and you want to be used in a factory or at home, the main skill that is enable such capabilities is based on physical AI, which means taking sensors environment, understand the environment, and create this collaboration between the robot and the human. There's a lot to invest in order to bring it to a usable environment. But we are on the path.
Back to Southeast Asia perspective, again, some of this local languages model together with humanoid robots, where it can understand local context, cultural context, to work together with human. I think like what Xuan mentioned earlier, I think the immediate future is to see how these robots could work alongside human and eventually perhaps autonomously. I think there's still angle for applications, especially in high-risk environment within Southeast Asia. I think people have identified potential application in the area of, say, construction environment, because that's where there's high risk of injuries to human. Agriculture is a rather huge industry within Southeast Asia, and I think in terms of adoption-wise, the industry is also looking at how this could improve productivity and efficiency within the industry.
The humanoid robots can complete more complicated tasks and replace some labor work. I think in some dangerous scenarios, it could create value that it could save people's lives, do less harm to human lives, which creates added value which could be brought by humanoid robot itself. For software, I think there's no consensus about what algorithm framework would be used in the humanoid robots. What is so special about China? I guess the first one is about supply chain. So from the auto industry, from the other industrial scenarios, China has a pretty complete supply chain for the manufacturing, for the components of a humanoid robot. Secondly, I think about the data. So China has many factories to collect the data scenarios and has many people. If you want to have more like improvement on the service robot, to have more natural interaction between humans and the robots, that would be a good test bed. So I would say that it's a good idea to test your and have collaboration with Chinese companies to see the technology boundary.
Thank you very much. Last questions. Focus back on the current projects that you all have within CRADLES. You can walk us through interesting project, interesting investment, 1 or 2, up to you, on any topics, just also to show the audience exactly what the work is with the CRADLE.
With AI and also how business units within HMG works is that all of these generative AI stuff, all this stuff, artificial general intelligence, it's very general focus. The proof of concept that we crafted, the development that we did was very much on solving that very specific problem. Another one I'll raise also within the factory setting is a company we also invested in called Makina Rocks. And this is a company we work with on a proof of concept at our Alabama plant, in which we're using industrial AI, Makina Rocks' industrial AI technology to identify problems within factory equipment. Right? The idea is to have be able to detect the problem before the machine fails, right? Because a failed machine sometimes can lead to a slowdown or potentially even a stalling of production, which can be costing at the millions of dollar level.
In the spirit of the topics what we're speaking today, I can give you a couple of project examples. The first one is we partner with Kia team, but working on the PBV, the Future Business Planning team. And they wanted to come up with a robotic solution for last mile logistics. In the end of that program, we choose the 2 companies. One is Deep Learning Robotics, DLR, which provides kind of a software development for a robotic arm that mimic a human operation. The second part of the Spot journey, we are doing it with another very interesting company called Extend that enable actually Spot to be either semi-autonomy or telling him the direction, and he will navigate with all the obstacles and people that moving in that corridor. And also we were able to program it to operate an elevator. The second project we did with HMTC, and we worked with a company called Evolution. We took an AI model that was developed for good enough level that they came up with results. Evolution, what they provide is kind of using genetic algorithm. We know in our vehicles we have the eco and the sport and normal, button that we're shifting in the gear. Think that it can be automatically set. So they developed that algorithm and they got to some level of results, and it quickly created the pipeline, choosing the best tools in order to develop that. Everything was automatically, of course. And then the genetic algorithm, the AI model of that platform started to improve automatically.
A few projects related to AI and robotics that we're quite excited about. Firstly, related to AI, I think the team in Singapore has been spending a bit of time looking at how AI can be utilized for new materials discovery. We are interested to talk to any BUs that are looking at materials that they want to utilize for interior, exterior of cars. We also recently saw a company looking at how they can develop highly efficient solar cells, and I think we are also trying to see how this could be integrated in vehicles. Maybe just to share a recent investment that Singapore office has completed, which is a wireless charging company. I think they started off developing wireless charging for autonomous robots. Progressively, the company is also developing solutions to charge electric vehicle.
I would like to emphasize again the importance of scalable data pipeline in a way to robotics with AGI. So we kind of make it more complicated, give them more complicated tasks to finish some recognition task and planning the task to finish, to see if they could finish the task with really little training and with limited actual data. About large language model, I will not say too much because that was supposed to be some surprise. We secure the top class teams in our innovation ecosystem. We create a POC with a purpose to help this accurately.
Thank you very much. It was super interesting. We'll have a second session tomorrow. And again, we'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. So thank you very much for your attention. First question, basically, what do you think about the EV adoption and charging infra? Basically, some of the developments that you guys are seeing that would be a little bit different from what we have here.
One of the things that we've definitely seen is that, sure, there's been a slowdown of EVs in terms of sales from across all OEMs, but I would say overall EV adoption is still very much on the rise in North America. Largely, I think, is due to the sustainability story behind. One of the things, especially in the US, that I would say is very much lacking on this is on the infrastructure portion. And we're also seeing all these very other OEMs coming on board with the Tesla charging networks. They so far have the biggest and most expansive charging network in the country, and this is something that I think a lot of OEMs want to leverage this as well.
If we look on this year investment around EV and charging specifically, one important investment was happened to a company called Electrion. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but Electrion is a wireless charging technology company, both static and dynamic. And early this year, both Denso and very quickly following after that, Toyota also investment in that company. And the reason why they invested in that company is because wireless charging is critical for commercial fleets. If I can support all this logistic process with wireless charging while the vehicle operate and make sure that the vehicle heading out with 100% charging, this enables a smoothless operation. As I see it, for commercial fleets, wireless charging is a key factor that can make everything much more operational, seamless, and profitable for commercial fleets.
I think in terms of EV adoption, we do see still increasing growth, although the number is small. I think we're seeing growth, and I think primarily we're seeing emergence of Chinese OEMs seeing Southeast Asia as a very attractive overseas market to them, especially in the recent year where the Western tariff has been imposed on the Chinese cars. When we talk about mobile charging, we're talking about either an autonomous robot going to the vehicle or even an energy storage system with a large battery set going to the vehicle. We are also trying to see how we can work with different CPOs in the region to expand that work for our customers.
if you read the news, you would know that the EV adoption in China, in terms of scale, is really huge. Speaking of the competitive landscape, I have to say that unfortunately the global JVs or the global players moves not as fast as the Chinese local domestic players. So most of the volume are from the domestic players and also Tesla. It seems that every launch in auto show, the Chinese makers are launching their charging infra or their faster charging technology what's new in their vehicles together with the vehicle model show. So it's no longer the one with the product is no longer the vehicle itself, but how fast can it charge the vehicle? How convenient can it supplement the energy? So we still face the inadequacy of the charging infra in China because the EV amount is going so fast.
Thank you very much. Now we go on to the sci-fi question. So you can have fun on this one. Mobility from 10 years from now.
I think we're going to continue to see EVs being adopted, especially in North America. In addition to EV, I would say we'll see more connectivity, more ADAS features being introduced into vehicles. Right now, we're seeing, at least on public roads, the first vehicles that can do level 3 autonomous driving. We're going to see more and more of that onto this. We'll see that as wireless networks gets faster, these app ecosystems get bigger, right? All of these will combine to form an overall mobility ecosystem that will hopefully, at least in the case of the US, get you from point A to point B faster and with less traffic.
And I see wireless charging getting much more into the infrastructure, both public and also private infrastructure, in order to streamline EV operation, specifically more in commercial fleet. Now think about in the future where we have wireless charging available on the street parking, when you have a dedicated parking for car sharing vehicles in the logistics center, and the customer just drop it back where it needs to be picked up next, and all the charging operation is becoming seamless. You can use a squeeze battery because during the operation, the vehicle can get power glimpse during the day, driving around the street. With wireless charging, it can operate 24/7.
So you won't only see four-wheelers going around, but continue to still see two-wheelers and three-wheelers serving the market. And it's partly due to the reason that infrastructure, for example, a lot of very dense cities in Southeast Asia, like Ho Chi Minh City or Bangkok, if you would have realized that some of the road conditions are very narrow, and it's hard to change that in a short period of time. So you would still see a need for some of this smaller mode of vehicle, or you call it micro mobility, to continue to still exist, 10 years from now or even 20 years from now. You would also hopefully see UAM or AAM happening, within the region, because if you look at the geography of Southeast Asia, for countries such as Indonesia or Philippines, there are actually a lot of islands that currently are not accessible. So if we could have access to urban air mobility, you would really increase access or mobility access for some of the people within the region.
When we talk about mobility, so by function, probably there are two big categories. The first one would be the L4 robotaxis, which is a fully autonomous driving. I would believe for the next 10 years, I believe Chinese companies will have bigger impact, not only in domestic markets, but also in global markets. And lastly, I would imagine that in the future, the mobility will be more connected, and which will give us a more convenient and experience with smart traffic, with different forms of mobility vehicles, including robotaxis, robot bus, and even AAM, just for the visionary example. And everything is connected.
Thank you very much. Last questions already, a bit more back on you and your daily work. If you could share a couple of projects or startup projects that you had in your respective cradle.
We were generally working with more organizations in North America that are in charge of basically selling vehicles. So a project I'll highlight from this is a company in New York called It's Electric. What they do is they focus on curbside charging, specifically dealing with the issue of charging in a congested city, a city like New York City. The idea, their main innovation on this is the fact that they take up a very, very small geographic footprint. HMA is very interested in because they believe that this will allow them to sell more Hyundai vehicles.
The ZER01 projects, what have been in the last couple of years, that started as a ZER01 project. The first one, more on the mobility side, is near field projection, laser projection around the vehicle. We team up with HMETC and Quantum Hub and a local startup called Maradin. with a MEMS-based laser projection that you can install around in the corners of the vehicles. And this year, if you will come next week to iLounge, you will see it with Continental that took the work with Mardin and actually upgraded it to kind of an automotive grade. And it will showcase next week at iLounge, and you're all welcome to come. The second project continued the wireless charging theme that I spoke earlier is with Electrion. Standards align now start to implement wireless charging. And we, with CRADLE, the value that we provided to the R&D teams is early access to the technology. Be able to heavy lift the project, build a test plan, provide all the information required.
I think on Singapore side, I think I mentioned briefly yesterday, we invested in a company called Synergy that does static wireless charging. So on Singapore side, we actually have developed a POC project together with HMGIX, our smart city based in Singapore, to look at how we can integrate wireless charging to charge mobile charging robot that could be used to charge up our EVs. We think that mobile charging robot could be a solution to solve some of the grid constraint. They also want to improve access to charge points, and one of the solutions is basically bring the charger to the car instead. I think another project that it's also quite interesting related to mobility, not so much of EV tech, but to provide mobility of people who are visually impaired. I think I find that an interesting project that we have done last year with the smart city team that we have is to look at how we could use computer vision technology integrated together with the sensors that you have in your mobile phone to basically help people who are visually impaired to move from one point to one point independently through audio feedback through your mobile phone.
I want to add one more point relevant to Israel and Europe. I'm not sure regarding the rest of the cradles, but one more important factor is the ability to help to the startups with government money. Government are pulling a lot of money and funds into mobility space and automotive space. And using the local cradles, we can help the startups to fund some of the activities with Hyundai.
Recently, Chinese government is kind of encouraging the all solid state battery a lot, and a few startups has really drawn great attention. At the same time, CATL set the tone that they are kind of devoted to this direction, which never happened before. As the Chinese companies are developing very rapidly, so what we find the differentiation is since the highway navigate on pilot and urban navigate on pilot functions are going to penetrate quite a lot, increasing. So how we are going to differentiate is to find a low-cost technology route to reducing the LiDAR and also has a different approach of the vision capability. So these are the projects that we are trying to recommend to the local R&D and local offices to have collaboration with, because I think in such market, it's better to find a differentiation, either the leading technology or you have a similar performance with a much lower cost. And another thing is we are also introducing some companies from such as Horizon Robotics and also a few famous AD solution autonomous driving solution companies to have workshops with the local R&Ds.
Thank you very much. I'll put your contact on the screen here, the name and email. So if the audience is interested, feel free to reach out to these guys. Thank you very much for the 2 days, and thank you guys for participating. That's it.